Ooh, India finally made a new tank. Arjun replacement? Eh, well, knowing a little bit about the tank, not really. But I hope there is one soon enough. In something called as F. What was that? FRCV, Future Ready Combat Vehicle. Well, that's a topic for another day. Let's see the video. This, I believe, is by Red Effect. Yeah, it's by Red Effect. Good channel. You very informative content.
Finally, India has presented their new tank. This new light tank has been in development for a couple of years, and it is finally here. The tank
Yeah,
in question is the
boy.
new Zorawar light tank. But
Looks
is it
good.
any good? And how does it relate to Arjun? Are they trying to replace
I don't
Arjun
think
with
it does relate with it.
well,
Looks
the
very
short
different.
answer is no, but I will get to that a bit later.
Okay, he
First,
also
let's
said
take a
no.
look at the technical capabilities of this tank. The first thing I want to talk about is the turret, because the turret is not Indian. It is a Cockerel
Yeah, it's not.
3105 modular turret from Belgium, and it comes with some pretty nice features.
Ooh.
The main armament is a Cockerel 105mm HP gun, which fires NATO standard ammunition. This is not the best gun out there, far from it, but
Hmm.
it seems to be the trend for modern light tanks to be equipped with the 105mm guns.
Wait, so what would be the best one, like 105 millimeter gun? Hmm. Uh, yeah, it's not exactly like Apple and Samsung, where you know the latest models and all the companies that make them. Eh. Also, 105 is a smaller barrel category. Like main battle tanks come with 125, I believe, and that is the diameter of the hole you see at the front, if I'm not wrong.
Even though the low recoil 120mm guns have been developed and are being offered, but I guess just going with the 105mm
Yeah,
gun is
that looks
cheaper.
nice. It
The
looks a
types of
bit like
ammunition offered for the
bulky.
gun are APFSDS, heat,
It
hash,
looks nice.
canister, and smoke, as
Whoa,
well as
whoa,
stun
whoa, whoa,
gun.
whoa, whoa, whoa. You went through that really fast. I'm sure you'll. Let's see that again.
Just going with the 105mm gun is cheaper. The types of ammunition offered for the gun are APFSDS,
Okay. So the one where the whole thing splits apart and you have a tungsten dart, which, well, since it's tungsten, it can pierce through a lot of other materials. Then you
hash.
have whoa, 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 heat and hash.
The types of ammunition offered for the gun are APFSDS, heat,
Really fast. Well, I think this one is the one where like that's a button at the front, and it hits. Well, let's say you're firing at an enemy tank. It hits the enemy tank, and then it shoots out a liquefied stream of copper or something, similar to an anti-tank missile. Maybe. Do correct me if I'm wrong on the this one. Heat.
hash.
Hash, again, I'm not sure about hash. I
The
think
types of
it's.
ammunition offered for the gun are APFSDS, heat, hash,
Okay, that's very fast. Hash. Is hash the one where it just explodes, it hits the outside of the tank and just explodes on the outside? It's like a pressure wave. It's like if your pressure cooker were like blew up, you wouldn't, and you're like you're not standing in front of it, you wouldn't get hurt, but it would still like shake you up quite a bit. But then I'm pretty sure this one is a way way more powerful version of that.
APFSDS, heat, hash, canister, and smoke.
Canister, what's a canister? I have no idea what's a canister round. Smoke, well, pretty. Ooh, you see the timer thingy on that on the top. You don't usually get to see that. This is like the timer you can set for when it looks like a timer. I have no idea what it actually is. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty straightforward. You shoot it, it reaches wherever it's gonna fall, and then there's a big pile of smoke, not really meant for damage.
as well as a gun-launched ATGM Caloric 105, which we do know they will
Interesting. It has fins and it has well, the control fins at the back as well. It has this curved fins that, well, you can see it pops out. It's like folded in onto this rectangular spot and it pops out. And you have the control fins as well. And then you have these at the front. Like these what do you call them? These dents. Like those are like rocket motor exhausts, but like I'm confused as to I've seen this in many different weapons, like missiles, usually anti-tank missiles. You'll have the main exhaust at the back, and then you have these exhausts. Is it because like the back is not a main exhaust and it's just a coil, like it's wire controlled, and then this is the exhaust in the middle? Uh, could be, could be. Because like a lot of anti-tank missiles back in the day, it's a very accurate, like it needs to be like a very accurate piece of kit. So if you're manually guiding it in, or like the computer's guiding it in, they used to have a cable attached to the back of it, which would just unwind and just at a really rapid pace. My biggest question regarding that has always been like, how does the cable not snap when like something which weighs upwards of 50 kilograms just from 0 to, I don't know, like 600 miles an hour? How does the cable just not snap instantly? Some interesting material engineering there. But yeah, I don't know. Does the back also have an exhaust, or is it just like the exhaust is over here and the back has cables instead?
include in the loadout of this tank. As for the rest of ammunition, nothing has been disclosed. I would expect them to at least get APF SDS and heat.
Yeah, see. You see the insides of it.
Nothing has been disclosed. I would expect them to at least get APF SDS.
There we go. So this thing at the top is the dart, like a throwing dart. And then this, I believe, is the primer pin. It explodes. You have gunpowder. Well, not exactly. That's more highly processed stuff. And then basically the everything else just goes to waste. You have a plastic casing, I believe, which splits apart the second this assembly comes out of the barrel in the front, and you have the dart, which looks like over here it's reinforced on the inside. Looks like there's softer material on the outside and like harder material on the inside, which would make sense. You don't want it to just, you want it to grab on and then shoot straight in to the surface of the enemy tank. Okay.
And heat or
I wanted to know what's inside this.
hash alongside it. The biggest drawback of this turret,
That
in
looks
my opinion,
nice.
is the autoloader, or rather, the low capacity of it.
Wait. Oh, okay. I was like, how is an autoloader a drawback? An autoloader is usually a good thing. Like you can reduce the amount of humans in there. But yeah, well, he just said low capacity. Makes sense. If you're running around, you don't have time for food. You want a tiffin box that can fill you up completely for one meal at least. Lunchbox. Like you don't want one snack bar for lunch. That's not gonna help you. Yeah, low capacity. Yep. Unfortunate.
The autoloader only has a capacity for 12 shells.
Also, from this image, it looks like there's like barely any armor on this thing. Like you could use one of those like steel core bullet snipers or something like that, and I don't know. Doesn't look too. Eh. Okay.
I would assume are placed in the hull. This sort of limits the amount of types of shells the tank can carry, because if you take a
True.
little bit of each, you might find yourself lacking the necessary ammunition when needed. That is why I assume they will not opt to take every type that is available, but rather two types of regular shells and the gun-launched ATGM, which we do.
Yeah, very realistic. Like you don't carry Like, let's say you go to the office or something, you don't carry your entire setup everywhere all the day. Like the whole mini industry of what is that? EDC. Is it EDC? EDC is propped up like everyday carry. So maybe in a military sense, it makes sense. Like that would be the tank's EDC. You carry like two types of bullets or shells. Like you would carry maybe like a small laptop and a phone, or maybe a tablet and a phone, instead of your entire desktop and laptop and phone and tablet. Like you have all of it, you can use all of it, but you wouldn't travel around with all of them.
do know they will be using in this tank. Now, this turret has a nice feature that goes along really well with what this tank is intended for, the mountainous areas on the borders with China.
Mm-hmm.
You see, this tank was designed as a response to the Chinese starting to deploy their light tanks, ZTQ. Light tanks generally have better mobility on high altitudes.
Yeah, one thing about this Chinese
The
tank,
lack
like
of oxygen can cause
the
heavy
turret
breathing
armor looks good, but the body looks like a cardboard box.
lungs to underperform. And since it is meant to be deployed in the mountains, it is not going to replace Arjun, because as I have mentioned many times on my channel,
Arjun is
Arjun is designed to be
very
used in
heavy.
the desert area on the border between Pakistan and India, so a completely different design ideology went into this tank. Now, the nice feature I wanted to talk about is the
Yeah,
transportation and depression.
yeah, boy. I'm not gonna make the joke, but damn, you don't usually get tanks which can point up that high. That is amazing for a mountainous like region to have a tank that can point up that high. Like you can just, if you have an enemy like really high up in a mountain and you're in like whatever you call it, like the valley, you can still just be like, you do not have the advantage because you have the high ground. Nice. Nice.
The gun can be depressed down to minus 10 degrees and elevated up to 42 degrees.
Okay, the minus 10 is pretty average. The 42 degrees up, good stuff.
For mountainous terrain, this is excellent, since it will give the tank ability to engage threats that are much lower or higher in altitude, which is obviously a problem in such terrain.
Mm-hmm.
As for the fire control system, both
Ooh,
government
ooh, what the hell? And that did not look like it could look to the left.
obviously a problem.
I mean, to the right.
As for the fire control system,
It turns. It turns. I thought it just went like up and down.
fire control system, both
Whoa.
government commanders
Okay,
are
nice.
equipped with the same sight with third generation thermal imaging system.
Ah. Usually the two different crew members get like two different types of sensors, don't they? In tanks. You know, different kinds of cameras and stuff.
Both sites appear to be Safran Paseo, as well as a remotely operated weapon
That shit reminds me of Wally.
system. Both sites appear to be Safran Paseo.
This looks so much like Wally. Every single tank site kind of reminds me of Wally from time to time. But this takes the cake. This looks so much like Wally.
As well as a remotely operated weapon station. Now,
Nice. Nice. I can just have an Xbox controller set inside the tank and just pew 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 pew. I don't like this barrel though. It looks very shite.
I could not find any information on what exactly is mounted on the sides of the turret. It's either ATGM launchers
Ooh,
or
this
alarm
box. Ah. Looks like anti-tank missile launchers, ATGM. Doesn't, I don't know. Loitering munitions. Well, let's see what he has.
launchers for loitering munition. And
I don't know. Would you put loitering munitions? Does that tactically make sense on a tank? Like you just have troops carrying it like separately. Maybe you would put loitering munitions. So, like maybe if you're like working in tandem with like attack helicopters, and which you would in an actual military conflict. But Well, so like just giving what do you call those examples? An ATGM is just a missile. You look at a tank, and it's like very specifically for against tanks. You find a tank, you point it, and you shoot it, and it takes care of the tank. A loitering munition, you don't need to exactly like look at the enemy. You could know that the enemy is roughly somewhere ahead, like a few miles to maybe a few tens of miles, and then you just like you don't fire it, you kind of launch it. It doesn't have like a jet engine. It doesn't have like rocket what do you call those? Rocket motors. It has like a propeller, like World War II planes. It just flies around, looks around with like a camera, and you can have a two-way communication. You can check that stuff, and then when you find something, you can send it to, well, basically hit and go boom. The loitering munition also lasts much longer than an anti-tank missile. Anti-tank missile, once you fire it, it's a few seconds before the fireworks. Loitering munition can be over an hour at times.
And I would assume it is the latter, since we do know they will be using the gun-launched ATGM. Therefore, there wouldn't really be a need to install even more ATGMs to the tank. If those are in fact launchers for the loitering munition, I would have to say that I
See, that's a loitering munition. The one, okay.
gems.
This is an interesting looking ATGM because it almost looks like a bullet. Like, sorry, like a tank shell, big bullet, in a sense.
If those are in fact launchers for the
But
loitering
this, you see how it has like much bigger wings like an airplane, and the back casing falls off, and you see
I
a
would have to
propeller
say that I
come
do
out.
like the
See,
idea.
propeller.
If you saw my last video, you would remember
Those things can stick around in the air for much longer.
me saying how I'm not a fan of what the German and French companies were doing with loitering munition launchers, basically replacing half of the ammunition of a tank with a launcher. And I did say that having launchers on the side of the turret would be much preferable, just like in this case. The hull, unlike the turret, is actually intact, and to be honest, there isn't really much to say there, since the power pack housed inside the hull is not damaged.
Wee!
The protection offered by the hull is probably on par with the turret, which is level 5 by Stanek 4569, meaning that it offers protection against 25mm APF.
I really want to know what's this stuff on the side. Like, is it like flotation device or is it add-on armor? Like, which one of the two is it? Like, for both flotation and armor, it looks a bit weird. Like, why do you need these like ridges and cuts? Like, you could have stuff get stuck on your tank with those. Like, wouldn't you want it to be more smooth? I'm sure there's some reason, it's not out there in the public. Also, what is that? Flotation devices or armor?
Yes, basically meaning it will protect against lower caliber autocannons, and that is it. It is pretty obvious that neither the turret nor the hull can really take a hit from any AT launcher, as
Okay, so the armor basically protects from almost the biggest caliber of bullets on ground. 25 mm. There's one more caliber, 30 mm, but that's not that usual on ground. Those are usually on aircraft. And then any tank weapon, like a tank shell or a missile, this thing apparently can't do anything about. It'll just go straight through. Which might sound horrible, but you have to remember it's a light tank. Like, it's in the name. It's built to be light. I would say it's built to be not hit, but I don't know anything about that. Like, can it scoot away quickly? I don't know. Looks pretty
there is
fast.
composite armor or explosive reactive armor on the tank. But what about the side armor add-ons? Well, I couldn't find any confirmation on what they actually are. Just people speculating whether they are actual armor add-ons or hollow pieces to give the amphibious ability to the tank. But to me, they appear to be actual armor add-ons rather than hollow pieces.
Okay.
Since, logically speaking, there aren't that many rivers in the mountainous areas between China and India.
There are. A lot of rivers. Slightly inaccurate. There are a lot of rivers.
Those that are there are pretty rocky and shallow. Not really.
Uh, Also, well, not incorrect, not wrong. What he's saying is not wrong. Yes, there are many shallow streams, but well, I would have to look into this, but I'm pretty sure there are some deep ones, and the biggest issue of them all, flash floods. But then that, well, it's a bit finicky. Maybe that doesn't justify having add-on floaties.
Is something you cross with an amphibious vehicle. And unfortunately, there aren't any vehicles with
Wee!
the level of protection offered by these
I
added
love
armaments.
how fast this
The
tank
turret
just goes.
can be
Wee!
equipped with laser warning receivers, which should warn the crew when the tank is
Nice.
being blazed by a laser rangefinder.
So that tiny little bot thingy over there, one on top, in the middle, on the side, you see. Interesting how you see it only on the left side. I would have expected one to be placed on the right as well, but then you see one on the right at the back of the turret. So I suppose, maybe they have good coverage. So basically, these guys are supposed to be tiny little cameras which look for enemies trying to point at the tank and shoot missiles. So anti-tank missiles don't just look at a camera and target that. Look at a tank using a camera and target that tank. Quite often, I believe most anti-tank missiles have either somebody else or the guy who's firing it has a laser in the launching setup. And they point the laser at the tank, and the missile's kind of a receiver. It goes after the laser, like you would point a laser in your room and a cat would go after it. The cat is the anti-tank guided missile.
Or laser guided munition. There were some people claiming how the tank has a hard kill active protection system or some protection against top attack munition, but no, it does not. At least not in this configuration that they presented to the public. We will have to wait and see for.
Okay, so the tank is completely vulnerable from the top, which is how a lot of them get taken out in modern conflict. Like you'll have loitering munitions, you have for many years now, you have anti-tank missiles that go up and then come down. Like they'll go towards a tank, but then instead of going straight at it, they'll do a thing where they'll fly straight up very when they get close to it and then come down from the top. Because that is one of the most lightly armored parts of a tank. Hmm. But it seems to be like it's not just lightly armored, it's also like blind. Like you wouldn't know if there's an attack on the top. Also, those tiny little drones dropping grenades and things.
the actual serial production to see what the final model will be equipped with. But I certainly hope they do, because in its current configuration, it would be very vulnerable to enemy anti-tank weapons. So mounting literally any hard kill active protection system would help out quite a bit. Hard kill
Okay.
systems are, in my opinion, essential
Oh yeah,
for
look at
modern
that.
light tanks. So
So that was an attacking. Well, that was a rocket, not a missile. I mean, you can doesn't matter. You could be a missile as well. A tank has like, well, basically a very calculated, accurate, delayed fuse explosive. A fireworks, sure, fireworks. And you, let's say, somebody's attacking it with a missile and RPG. So just like what you saw there, the tank will look at it and fire automatically. It's too fast for humans to respond manually. It'll turn automatically, shoot off its own mini rocket explosive missile, if you may. And then when it gets close enough, which it'll, I assume, know because of a proximity sensor, the thing your tank fired explodes really close to the attacking missile, and then that usually makes the attacking missile explode as well. Or it just actually physically breaks apart the attacking thing.
hard kill systems
Like
are, in my
that.
opinion, essential for
Boom.
modern light tanks. So it would be better if some of those talks about the hard kill APS do. Oh, and also the front hull talks about the hard kill APS do turn out to be true.
Like
Oh,
that,
and
where it
also,
doesn't
the
explode
front
it,
hull
but like
appears to have
crushes
some
it.
weak spot on the upper front plate. This appears to be a
Ah, okay.
fuel port like on the Argent tank.
Wait, what the hell? Wait. Why is there a fuel port in the front of the tank? Isn't there where you get shot from the most? Oh, I really want to know the logic behind this. What's the logic behind, like, what? I don't remember seeing that in any other tank. Abrams doesn't. Well, Abrams doesn't have it in the front, the American one. The T series Russian ones also. I don't think they have it in the front. They have those armor tiles. Leclerc. I've not seen enough of Leclerc. Leclerc. Ah, shit. I can't pronounce the Leclerc properly. Leclerc? I don't know. The Challenger definitely does not have it in the front because it has this weird, like, dent for the driver. And then everything else is just a relatively steep slope. And I would not know for the Leopard either. Or the K2 Black Panther, the Korean one. The Japanese one, again, just like the French one, I've not seen enough of it. But how? Why would you? What? I want to know why this would be here. What's the logic behind that?
No idea why they took this design choice from the Arjun, as it is obviously not optimal, but on a lightly armored tank like this, it is not that much of a problem, since, as I already stated, it can pretty
It's
much
gonna go
only fire small
anyways.
caliber autocannons, so having a slightly less armored part isn't a huge issue. But of course, it would have been better if there was no
Wee!
weak spot to begin with, but again, not a huge problem. As for the
Wee!
mobility, the tank is equipped.
I just want to give it like those cute little those anime blush thingies.
Been better if there was no weak spot to
Looks so
begin with,
cute.
but again,
It
not a
looks
huge
so
problem.
cute.
As for the mobility, the tank is equipped with the available Cummins engine.
Interesting.
I couldn't find
Interesting.
what exact variant is supposed to be in the tank because, again, there is conflicting information. Some sources state that the 1000 horsepower
No, 650 horsepower.
in the tank, and other claim that the 750 or the 760 horsepower variant is used. If someone has some definitive
I
answer to
believe
this,
it's the
please let me know.
650
Now, even
horsepower
though this
variant.
engine is designed and originally made in America, there is a
This looks so much like a Lego Technique, like piece of kit. Does not look like a tank engine.
chance that it will be produced in India, since Cummins has a big facility in India, so the engines might be produced locally in the future, or at least assembled locally.
I would say that is better. Like, I know I've been pausing the video quite a lot, but I believe I like to do that. I like it like that. So I'll keep doing that. But I think it's good to have a deal where you can manufacture parts of, like, let's say the engine you can manufacture. It need not be designed and built in your country, but you can manufacture in your country. Because, like, in times of conflict and stress, like, can you really trust another country to supply you all your parts on time? Can you really trust everything will come on time if it's not in your country? So I think it's a good deal to have the manufacturing setup in India.
So overall, this tank is not terrible, believe it or not. I think choosing already existing systems instead of trying to develop something different was a really
Oh, okay, look at that. It has like two cameras, so one for the front, one for the left side. There's nothing on the right, and then again and again. So does it have a blind spot on the right? Or is it somewhere mounted somewhere on the hull, like that thing? I don't know.
believe it or not. I think choosing already existing systems instead of trying to develop something different was a really smart choice. And
Yeah.
unlike Arjun, there really isn't much I can complain about here. It is a light tank meant to face other light tanks, although I do have to say that the Chinese ETQ-15
See, this is what I mean. Like, dude, why does your body look like cardboard?
definitely has a much superior protection, since the ERA on it
It
released
does.
composite armor
I
would
suppose
mean
it
it would at
does.
least be able to sustain some 80 rockets or missiles, at least older ones. But if Zorawar and the ZTQ-15 went face to face,
Wee!
the outcome would depend on a lot of factors, but definitely not on the capabilities of the actual tanks, because they can probably easily penetrate each other and are very comparable in all aspects. Zorawar has been in development for at least 4 years from what I could gather, since the development started as a response to the 2020 border.
So that's interesting that it doesn't matter that much because they can take out each other anyways. Like their offensive capabilities far outpace their defensive capabilities, both of these tanks. Also, it is very unusual to have something of that scale in 4 years. Even a functional, like, pre-production prototype. 4 years is very fast. And I guess that is due to the fact of, like, they didn't try to invent the wheel. Whatever they had, which they could produce themselves, well, they made it and then they just added on existing things onto it. Which is a quite a decent, well, it has its own risks, but I think it's a quite decently good idea. Like, let's say the Gripen, for example, beautiful European plane, engine American. I don't know if any other part is not Swedish in that plane. It's a very nice plane. And I can't think of any other example right now. But yeah, you can start off with an a platform which is more of an integration job rather than a complete creation, and then slowly switch over.
crisis. And we did actually get the concept of the tank back in 2022, where it did appear like it will in fact feature the John Cockerell turret with the 105mm gun, which at the time was also presented on a Leopard 1 on the Eurosatory.
Wait.
Which at the time was also presented.
The neck. The neck on that boy. Damn, that's a thick neck. Also, I don't know why like, this German. Okay, Leopard 1, so it's a Cold War hull or chassis, like the lower body. I like it. I like this tank. Like, not for real actual conflict. I want to see this in War Thunder. This is a War Thunder tank.
On a Leopard 1 on the Eurosatory. So it approximately took them 2 years to come up with the concept and 2 years to come from the concept to the real tank, which is honestly pretty fast.
Yeah, it
And
is very
now,
fast.
here we are. An initial order on these tanks
L&T, DRDO.
defense, but they still need to conduct some trials. And in the next couple of years,
Yeah, I'm not sure about those
we should see
headlights.
them rolling off the
You
production
might want to cover them in, like, small little cage covers so that they don't get, like, busted first thing when a conflict starts. Also, you didn't speak about it till now, but smoke launchers, very standard thing, so I don't think you need to speak about it. But basically, if you get found, because conflict is also a game of hide and seek. If you get found, you just launch a few smoke grenades, they fall, you have a tiny little cloud in front of you, and then you can just run away or, like, retreat behind some objective or change positions.
production lines if everything goes to plan. That would be all. If you like my content, you can support me on Patreon. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.
I did like your content. Very, very interesting. I also want to know what these bottom plates are. Are they also armor plates? Because, like, the thing on the top, this plate on the top is the flip out for the amphibiousness of the tank. That's not exactly an armor plate. But is the bottom, are these 4 panels in the bottom an armor plate? I'd like to know that. Also, very interesting thing about the tracks. They don't seem to have, like, the chain link. It seems to be one continual, like, rubber band, which, again, very unique in a tank. I've not never seen that as somebody who's, a military enthusiast, I guess. Maybe enthusiast is a good word. I have never seen. I'm sure there is precedent. I'm sure this somebody has made rubber tracks before, completely rubber tracks, like a single piece. But I have not really seen those in use. Most Yeah, I've not seen that in news. Interesting. Hmm. Well, that was that. Quite, quite an interesting thing. What did you all think of this tank? Is it cute? Is it funny? Is it lethal? Is it cool? Let me know. I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye bye.